Welcome back, everyone.
Episode 24, Revival.
So the episode picks up immediately following the events of the previous episode, with Higuchi moments away from being apprehended, and the death note, which up until now has remained a secret from, well, basically everyone outside of people who don the title of Kida, moments away from being discovered. So as the chief and Mogi make their way towards Higuchi's car, they take a second to speak with Aizawa.
Do you have a helmet or something to hide your face with? I do. Good, then cover me.
So I actually really love this moment. The fact that the chief is asking him to cover him says a lot, because it means that he still trusts Aizawa with his life. And I think that's especially meaningful to Aizawa, because Ryuzaki kind of made him feel like he wasn't to be trusted anymore, since he said he would be unwilling to share information with him if he went back to the police. And I'm not saying that Ryuzaki was being malicious in doing that. I can understand why he'd want to keep things in-house, but I can also understand how that might make Aizawa feel some kind of way. But here, the chief is basically telling him that you're one of the few people I trust with my life as we move in to apprehend one of the most dangerous criminals we've ever come across. And I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, the trio, backed by about a half a dozen detectives with guns pointed at Higuchi, move in to arrest him, ordering him out of the car before cuffing, blindfolding, and forcing him to his knees.
Higuchi, how are you able to kill people? Tell me.
So I love the aggression in Ryuzaki's voice right now. Like, he is not fucking around, and I get it. It's like, you've tried to hunt me, you used your influence to derail my investigation, and you shot at and tried to kill my people. Like, he is sick and tired of this shit, and he wants some answers. So after Higuchi doesn't immediately respond, Ryuzaki says that he'll do whatever he needs to do in order to get that information, which, yeah, he really will. I actually like how the camera pans to Watsuri for a second as he's saying it too, because we all know that Watsuri is very much about that life.
You probably won't believe me, but I've got a special notebook. If I write someone's name in it while thinking of their face, that person dies.
And yeah, just like that, the information that had been all but speculation for the task force for the better part of a year has now been confirmed by none other than Kida himself. Anyway, the chief, at Ryuzaki's request, goes to Higuchi's car and grabs the notebook. And it's funny because he just kind of picks it up and gets comfortable in the car, just looking at the notebook, commenting on how it doesn't really look all that special, and then, suddenly...
What is it, Mr. Yagami?
And, I mean, we know why he's screaming. It's basically a rite of passage every time you see one of these things. I mean, to be fair, how could you not freak out at something like that?
Don't panic. Remember, you're not currently armed to defend yourself.
Oh, all right, of course.
I love how this man just automatically reached for his gun, ready to just start blasting. Like, when it was just little old Higuchi, he was like, I can't use guns because they're illegal. But after seeing Rem, dude was like... Anyway, in his panic, the chief dropped the notebook, and Mogi was kind enough to go ahead and pick it up for him. And I love how Mogi just comes up to him like he's a grandpa with dementia or something, and it's like...
Chief, I think you must be getting tired.
Before seeing Rim for himself and also losing his shit. But yeah.
It seems only people who have touched the notebook can see this monster.
Okay, two things. One, I'm gonna need y'all to stop disrespecting Rim like this. Like, she gets it. She's fugly as hell. Wouldn't touch her with a 6-foot pole. A face only a mother could love. Looking like a failed human transmutation. But y'all don't need to be so rude about it. And two, good on the chief for putting that together so quickly. I mean, it seems fairly obvious, but when you're face to face with a, well, I guess a literal manifestation of death, critical thinking skills can be hard to come by, and yet he managed to piece it together. So props to him for that. But yeah, while Mogi brings the notebook to Ryuzaki, Rim watches on, curious as to what exactly Light has planned in this moment, going on to state that once Light takes hold of the notebook, he will get his memories back. However, there's a bit of a caveat with that, but we'll get to that in just a second. Anyway, Mogi makes it to the helicopter and passes the notebook to Ryuzaki, and interestingly enough, upon seeing Rim, he doesn't freak out.
It really is a Shinigami.
And he's the first character to have ever done that, which is, yeah, wow. I mean, anytime we've seen a character see a Shinigami for the first time, they've had pretty much the same reaction. But not to Chad Ryuzaki. Though, to be fair, one could argue that he already had his screaming fit back in episode 12 when Misa mentioned Shinigami during one of her response videos. Cause, boy did he freak the hell out back then. Anyway, after acknowledging that Shinigami do exist, he goes into full-on detective mode.
Like Yagami, this is how Kira killed. No. The second Kisha looks into the first. 2 books. There have have to be 2 notebooks, possibly more.
And let's kind of break down his train of thought here. Now, it probably doesn't come as too much of a surprise that the very first thing he thought of was Light Yagami, because it's not like he's given up on the idea that Light is or was Kira. So from there, he acknowledges that this is how Kira killed people, kind of confirming that a name and face are, in fact, needed, as well as now discovering that it's as simple as thinking of that person's face while writing down their name. Now, from there, he pivots to the second Kira, which in this case would mean he's referring to Misa Amane, and immediately after that, he recalls the letter that the task force intercepted back in episode 13, specifically the bit about exchanging notebooks in Aoyama. His mind then wanders back to Misa Amane and the fact that back in episode 17, she professed to meeting Light in Aoyama and falling in love with him at first sight. And lastly, having put all the pieces together, he exclaims that there have to be 2 notebooks, if not more. Which, I mean, the logic behind that assertion is sound. All the information is there, even if it isn't necessarily concrete. So yeah, Ryuzaki put that together pretty quick, and I gotta give him props for it. But while he was piecing all of that together, something happened. And, well... And just like that, Kira Prime has returned. Well, almost. Remember that caveat I spoke about earlier? Well, the thing is, Light has his memories back, all of them in fact, but he can only hold on to them for as long as he holds on to the notebook. If, for whatever reason, he lets go of the notebook, then all of his memories will be forfeited once again. Well, at least until he picks up the notebook again. But there is a more permanent solution for retaining said memories, and it's actually a really simple one. All he has to do is reclaim ownership of the Death Note. Now, as far as how he can go about reclaiming ownership, well, there's 2 options. One, Higuchi can forfeit ownership, but I mean, that's not gonna happen at this point, which leaves option number 2, kill Higuchi, right here, right now, which is just insane.
Exactly as planned.
Really though? Exactly as planned? Because this seems like a shitty situation, my guy. Not only are you surrounded by the police and the task force, but you're also sitting right next to Ryuzaki. You're telling me that you really think you'll be able to get away with killing Higuchi under these conditions? Okay, I guess we'll see, but first, let's take a trip down memory lane. And actually, before we even do that, I did want to point out 2 things. One, I find it really impressive that Light is just able to jump right back into being full-on, cunning, manipulative Kira once he touches the notebook. Like, there's no moments of confusion or anything like that outside of him screaming for, 10 seconds or something while his memory's downloaded? Like, once the memories are back, there's no brain fog or anything. He's just right back on his bullshit. I mean, you would think there might be a moment, though, right? A moment wherein he'd sort of be at odds with himself. Like, he's harbored such negative emotions towards Kira, and now he knows that he is Kira. Do all of those negative thoughts and feelings not influence him in some way? Like, he was disgusted and offended by the idea of possibly being Kira, and yet it's like none of that ever happened. It's just kind of weird to me, but then I've never had my memories taken away by some magical notebook and then shoved right back in my head all at once, so what do I know? Anyway, secondly, and more noteworthy, get it? Because the Death Note, never mind. I want to point out the fact that the Death Note in Light's hand right now is his, which might seem kind of confusing because if we look back at episode 16, we can clearly see that Light had forfeited ownership of Misa's notebook, right? So why the hell is the notebook that they just took from Higuchi the one that Light originally had? Well, let's find out. So as we transition back to the past, we find ourselves back in the same woods from episode 16, and the scene actually starts off the same way it did in that episode. Well, almost the same. For some reason, the dialogue is slightly different. Originally, Light said,
"I hereby relinquish ownership of this Death Note."
But in this flashback, he says,
"I hereby forfeit ownership of this notebook."
Which, I mean, it's fine, I guess, mostly just a matter of semantics, but I mean, why wouldn't you just play the same clip? It's not like you don't have it, whatever. Now, here's where we start getting additional context, because instead of cutting to Rim telling Light to take care of Misa like she did in episode 16, it now transitions into Light confirming that Rim is now the owner of Misa's notebook again, which is then followed by Light telling her to give the notebook to Ryuk, thus transferring ownership to him, before lastly having Ryuk drop the notebook on the ground, once again putting it in possession of the human world so that Light can pick it up and reclaim ownership again. And if you're thinking, what the hell was the point of that? well, you wouldn't be alone.
Hang on, it's just gone around in a circle. Nothing's changed, right?
And on the surface level, it does look like everything's pretty much remained the same. But interestingly enough, the act of doing this, as well as what he's about to do in a second, will serve 5 different purposes, all of which serve to give Light a different kind of advantage once he gets the notebook back. And we'll get into what each of those are by the end of the episode. Anyway, before we move on, I did think it was worth pointing out that Light had Ryuk drop the notebook as opposed to just handing it over. I wonder if that was necessary. Like, is a Shinigami unable to just hand a death note to a human? I mean, that would kind of coincide with the rule from episode 3, given it explicitly states that the note will become the property of the human world once it touches the ground in the human world. Some of y'all in the comment section actually mentioned something to this effect in regard to why Rem didn't use her own notebook to get Misa to see her back in episode 21, because it would have meant having to drop it and subsequently forfeit ownership of it. But anyway, after reclaiming ownership of Misa's notebook, Light whips out the notebook that Ryuk had originally dropped in the human world and hands it back to him. And just as they had done previously, but in reverse, Ryuk then hands the notebook to Rem, thus making her the owner of Light's original death note. That is, until she eventually gives it to Higuchi and it finds its way back to Light. And that's actually the first purpose behind swapping notebooks like this, to ensure that when the time comes, Light gets his own notebook back so that he can regain all of his memories. Also, in regard to the whole notebook misdirection from episode 16, something worth pointing out is every time they showed the notebook after that moment, it's always been either opened up or only had its back cover showing. And this was done to ensure that we never pick up on the fact that it was Light's notebook and not Misa's. I thought that was pretty cool and a great attention to detail. Now, after this, Light goes on to lay out his plan, telling Rem to find some rich, powerful asshole who would use the death note to further his own machinations, and I will say this, Rem definitely found the perfect person to fill that role. But yeah, Light ends the conversation with Rem by telling her that as long as she does as instructed, Misa should be free soon, and if she isn't, then Rem is free to kill him. Which, on one hand, that's kind of a wild thing to say, but on the other hand, within the next week, he's not even going to remember any of this. So, I suppose in this case, ignorance is bliss. Anyway, Rem then flies off and Light goes on to explain the rest of his plan to Ryuk, claiming that after they leave here, he'll go to Ryuzaki and demand that he be locked up and put under 24-hour surveillance, and that shortly after that, the killings will pick up again, and not soon after that, Ryuzaki will be forced to release Misa and himself. In addition to that, he says,
Chances are I'll want to help catch Kira myself. That's just the way I am.
And it's interesting because that is such a crucial element of his plan, but also a pretty big gamble. I mean, even the verbiage he uses, chances are, implies as such, because there's no telling whether or not he'll actually want to join the investigation. Hell, he could have ended up traumatized by being incarcerated and wanted nothing to do with Ryuzaki and the task force for putting him through that for so long, especially considering the fact that they end up lying to him about the deaths continuing. I mean, not that they let him go, but he might have opted for just not being involved, which means that when they eventually caught up to Higuchi, which, I mean, they would have eventually, he could have ended up like Misa when they went to bring him in, and thus he might not have ever had the chance to touch the notebook. But anyway, back in the present.
Just as I expected. I'm wearing this watch. I just have to pull this 4 times in less than a second. Got it.
And yeah, the dude had installed a secret compartment in his watch that can be triggered by pulling on a specific knob 4 times. Which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's actually pretty cool. It feels very 007-esque. But honestly, at first, I thought it was bullshit. I figured putting something like that inside of a watch would mess with its ability to function properly. But based on what I've seen from a Reddit user by the name of SKD Rowe, crafting something like this is a relatively easy thing to do. So that's actually pretty cool. And very in line with what we've seen from him in regard to crafting before. And what's even cooler is it leads to one of the craziest kills of the entire series. Because as I said before, dude is surrounded by people, and not even just people, enemies. He has no allies here except for maybe Rem, but also not really. And even still, she's literally the furthest person away from him right now. But even under these circumstances, he somehow manages to discreetly pull the needle out of his watch, prick his finger, and then start to write down Higuchi's name in his own blood. Like, fucking hell, okay, I see you, Light. I see you, Gita. It honestly doesn't get more metal than using your own blood as your method of killing someone. However, as metal as that is, it's also one of those situations where it feels like in order to build one character up, you have to fundamentally tear another one down. Because I just feel like there is no fucking way that Ryuzaki would be letting this shit happen right now. Like, the very first thing that Ryuzaki thought when he started analyzing the situation was,
Like Yakami.
And yet, when this dude snatched the notebook from him, he just didn't take it back? He just let him sit there with it, his back partially turned away from him? Like, sure, Light said he was going to verify the names written in the notebook, but it's like, why would you trust him to hold on to this weapon of mass destruction? A weapon of which you feel he's used previously to kill people. And it's not even like Ryuzaki isn't still suspicious of him. Like, he was literally over there glaring at Light for being so damn suspicious. Like, it's just silly that he wouldn't take it back, or at the very least, have someone else hold on to it. Like, I don't know, Watari? I mean, he's right there. And wouldn't it make sense to let the dude with the sniper rifle see the Shinigami? I mean, we know that he can't do anything to it, but as far as they know, he could headshot this thing if they needed him to. And regardless of that, if nothing else, it gets it out of the hands of your number one suspect, Ryuzaki.
You know, about this notebook, I wonder what we would find if we put it through forensic analysis.
That doesn't sound like you, Light.
So, two things. One, in regard to Light, I like the fact that he's just throwing random shit out there to keep the conversation going. Because at this point, since he's already written the name down, he just needs to keep the notebook on him for another 40 seconds. So he's essentially just stalling, filling the dead air with some random hypothetical scenarios about testing the notebook to see what it's made out of or whatever. But honestly, even though he only said it to buy time, I would actually be really interested to know what that thing is made out of. Like, is it leather bound, or is it like cardboard, like a composition notebook? Like, what are we working with here? But anyway, secondly, in regard to Ryuzaki, this just makes him look even more careless, because he literally just said that Light's not sounding like himself. And, my guy, when did he start not sounding like himself? Could it be perhaps after he snatched the damn notebook? Like, Ryuzaki has been so adamant on his stance that this man is Kira. And he's also been extremely upfront about this belief, especially to Light's face.
I suspect that you, Light Yagami, are in fact Kira.
Fact is, I can say that Light Yagami is Kira.
Do I seem like that kind of person to you?
Yes, you do. I've always thought so. Do you remember killing anyone, I mean?
So why is he now just being quiet about his concerns? Because he clearly still has them. Like, that much is obvious by both his facial expressions and his own internal monologue. I mean, just a few days ago, y'all came to an agreement that it makes sense that he would try and find a way to have the power of Kira return to him. And here he is, Death Note in hand, and you're just fine with it. Like, all Ryuzaki has to do is ask for the damn notebook back and see how Light reacts. I mean, for someone who loves testing people, this would be the perfect opportunity to do so. And it's not even like you'd have to justify the request. If he gave you any pushback, you could easily just call him out for it in front of everyone. Like, I would be much more inclined to believe this scene is playing out like this if Ryuzaki was also in shock like everyone else. If he was freaked out the way we saw back in episode 12. Then it's just a matter of him being distracted at the absolute worst moment. It would even work narratively speaking, because there's clearly a precedent for people to react that way when encountering a Shinigami for the first time. And even more so for him, because he was terrified by just the idea of a Shinigami. I don't know. It's just very frustrating to me. But then maybe I'm being too harsh. It is a 40-second window, and Ryuzaki is actively trying to piece shit together in real time. Maybe I'm just frustrated because his carelessness here ultimately leads to the events that transpire in the next episode, and, well, we'll get to it next time.
This has gotta be the longest 40 seconds of my life.
Oh, I bet it is. And to be clear, at this point, it's a foregone conclusion that he's gonna win here. I mean, he's already said as much.
I've won.
Though, I guess him saying that he's gonna win doesn't necessarily, never mind. But I thought this would be a good time to share something that I thought was pretty cool. So, last time I mentioned how, from the moment Higuchi finished writing down Matsuda's alias to the point that he believed Matsuda should have died, it was roughly 46 seconds. Well, interestingly enough, it's the exact same amount of time in this instance as well. I went ahead and tested it by lining the clips up side by side, and yeah, I thought that was a really good attention to detail on their part. Sure, it's a little longer than 40 seconds, but in this instance, I'll take consistency over outright accuracy. So, yeah.
Hey, Higuchi!
And yeah, Kira is dead. Long live Kira.
And you're next, Ryuzaki.
Alright everybody, welcome back to How to Use It. First up, it is a prerequisite for the Death Note used in the human world that a living god of death makes sure that the humans in the human world use it. So this is a weird one, and it took me a minute to understand what it was trying to say. Because at first, I thought this was bullshit, given the fact that there's currently a notebook buried in the woods that no one is using. And if it's required that a Shinigami be present to make sure humans use it, then Ryuk is currently breaking this rule by allowing it to just sit and collect dust, or, dirt? You know what I mean. But then that didn't really sit right with me, because why introduce a rule immediately after showing us someone breaking said rule? So instead, I'm taking this to mean that the prerequisite only applies to the original instance of the notebook being dropped. Because in both of those cases, be it with Ryuk or Rem, they encouraged Light and Misa respectively to either use the notebook or give it up. And furthermore, after the notebook touched down in the human world, it technically never left the human world. Or at the very least, it never went back to the Shinigami realm, and therefore the prerequisite of needing to make sure someone used it again was never needed. I guess. I'm not 100% sure, it's just the only way I can rationalize this rule into making any sense. If y'all have any other ideas for what this means, then please let me know in the comment section. But for now, let's move on. So next up, it's very difficult to consider that a god of death who has possessed a human could die, but if he should die, the death note that he brought into the human world will not lose its power. So this one is pretty straightforward. All this means is that the death note will still function properly, despite it no longer being connected in any way to a specific Shinigami. And I mean, we've kind of already seen that play out with Jealous, the only difference being that the notebook didn't belong to Misa before he died. But anyway, things pick back up at Task Force headquarters, where we see Misa reading, Fish magazine, which, okay. From there, we transition to the task force, where things are kinda tense, probably because they've got this big-ass Shinigami just chilling in there with them. Anyway, Aizawa is the first to speak, as he begins reading off the rules that we, as the audience, have become all too familiar with.
It says the human whose name is written in this notebook shall die.
And it's kind of fun seeing this from the perspective of someone who's unfamiliar with the Death Note, because we haven't seen that since episode 1 back when Light picked it up.
The human whose name is written in this notebook shall die.
Like, when it comes to both Misa and Higuchi, they're already well into using it by the time we meet them, so we don't get to see their initial reaction to the notebook itself. So, I don't know, it's just kind of refreshing to see how they're reacting to it. Like, you can see that Aizawa is nervously sweating as he reads the rules off. Anyway, Aizawa goes on to read the original 5 rules of the notebook, the ones Ryuk had put in there himself so that whoever stumbled upon it would know both what it was and, well, how to use it. And I guess now's a good time to say that this is the second purpose behind swapping notebooks. Simply put, it's the fact that this notebook, his original notebook, has the rules written in it, which serve to make it a lot more accessible for anyone who uses it. So, when it came time for Rem to choose someone, in this case, Higuchi, he'd be able to act autonomously without having to heavily rely on guidance from Rem, who, as we've seen, has her own agenda that doesn't necessarily always line up directly with Light's. But also, when it comes to those rules, something even more important than making the notebook more accessible is the fact that
the back cover has some more instructions on how to use it.
And if you're thinking, I don't remember anyone ever mentioning anything about any extra rules in the back of the Death Note, well, don't worry, your memory isn't failing you. There were never any rules in the back of the notebook, especially not any rules that said anything like,
if you make this note unusable by tearing it up or burning it, all the humans who have touched the note till then will die.
Which is kinda ridiculous, at least from our perspective anyway. While we know that no such rule exists, the same can't be said for the task force. And I mean, why wouldn't they take that at face value? Because with Higuchi dead and Rem as quiet and stoic as ever, they have nothing to go off of except for what's written here. They already know that at least the first rule is real, and they can probably guess that the third rule, the one regarding stating the cause of death, is real too, given the fact that the last name written in the notebook belonged to that traffic cop who got into an accident in the last episode. So, yeah.
With a rule like that in place, the notebook's safety is guaranteed, which means my memories of it will remain.
And that last part kind of threw me off, because as far as I can tell, there's no rule that explicitly states that an individual will lose their memory if their death note is destroyed. To my knowledge, you only lose your memory if you forfeit ownership of it. Now, I suppose one could argue that if the death note you own is destroyed, then you technically will no longer possess it, and therefore all of your memories would be lost. I could see that being a thing. However, I kind of like the idea that he did this as a different kind of preventative measure. Like if he was put in a situation where they did retrieve the notebook, but he wasn't able to hold on to it long enough to reclaim ownership of it. In creating a rule like this, it would mean that the opportunity to get his memories back would always exist, even if he had to ultimately wait longer to do it. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, from there, we head back to the woods for a quick scene showing us how Ryuk went ahead and added those rules in the notebook for Light, claiming that Light would owe him an apple when this was all over. Which, honestly, I really kind of hate this. Like, Ryuk was so adamant about not being on Kira's or L's side, but the creation of these rules honestly suggests otherwise. Like, he's rigging the game in Light's favor to a ridiculous degree after explicitly saying that he wouldn't.
I'm not here to support you or give you my opinion, I'm just a spectator. Make no mistake, Light, I'm not on your side or L's side.
So that was a fucking lie.
Like, look, the first time he did it, I could at least somewhat understand the motive behind it. The whole thing with Ray telling Light, Ryuk felt like he was the one being followed. I can especially buy it in retrospect because as the series went on, we had moments like that scene in episode 10 where Ryuk dodged a tennis ball, knowing damn well it was going to phase right through him. Like, he's just a weird guy, and I can accept that as being a part of who he is. And in regard to the second instance of helping Light, the whole thing with the cameras, that too can be explained away by Light leveraging his addiction to apples, which was established as early as episode 1.
Yum.
We basically saw this dude take his first hit, and after that, he was hooked. And we saw him going through withdrawals and everything because he couldn't have them. In fact, the only time Ryuk has ever threatened to write Light's name down in his death note was when he was going through withdrawals.
I might actually write your name in my death note and kill you, just like that.
Like, that wasn't something that was thrown out there just for laughs. Dude is an actual junkie. Anyway, then there's this. Ryuk just rigging the game in Light's favor for really no reason whatsoever. Yeah, he makes a comment about Light owing him an apple, a single apple, but Light doesn't even agree to that. And this just, it just fundamentally goes against what Ryuk said. But then, I guess when it comes down to it, Ryuk is really only here for one thing: to ease his boredom. He, and really, to an extent, all of the Shinigami are just walking wildcards, who really only exist to stir the pot in one way or another. And in Ryuk's case, he'll do whatever he can to keep things interesting for himself. It's a little annoying, sure, but it's also not 100% out of character for him. So, whatever.
Oh man, maybe I shouldn't have let my curiosity about seeing a Shinigami get the better of me.
At least Matsuda's still acting the same. Gotta love his old silly ass. Anyway, Aizawa goes on to read the final rule that Light had Ryuk write, which states,
if the person using the note fails to consecutively write names of people to be killed within 13 days of each other, then the user will die.
And this one is a game changer because, just like that, guess who's no longer a suspect in the Kira investigation? Yup, Kira and the second Kira. Because, since all of these rules are legit, then how could Light or Misa possibly be Kira? They were locked up for well over a month. There's no way it could be them, right? Anyway, in hearing this rule, Matsuda is the first person to make the claim that Light and Misa must be innocent. And he's actually really excited by the prospect, which, makes sense. We know that he's personally a fan of Misa, and he has a great deal of respect for Light and the Chief. So to him, this is awesome news. In fact, pretty much everyone has positive things to say about it. Aizawa, the Chief, Mogi, well, actually, no, scratch that. Mogi's back to being a fly on the wall again, but I guess we can imagine that he's happy to hear it. Whatever. Anyway, the only one who doesn't seem happy about the news is Ryuzaki. I wonder why. Instead, choosing to focus his attention on Rim by asking her some questions, trying to suss out whether there are, in fact, multiple notebooks, as well as if all of the notebooks abide by the same rules. But unfortunately, it's a pointless exercise.
You're wasting your time, Ryuzaki. You'll never get Rem to admit these rules are fake.
See? And herein lies the third purpose of that exchange in the woods, having Rim be the Shinigami present in this situation. Because while Ryuk has helped Light out, we've come to establish that it's always been in a very self-serving kind of way, be it alleviating his own anxiety, satiating his own addiction, or in this most recent case, providing himself with some entertainment. But the thing with Ryuk is, he's a bit unpredictable. You never really know what he's going to do. However, Rim is the exact opposite. Her movements are much more predictable because she has a single, unyielding goal at the end of this: protect Misa, no matter the cost. And Light's banking on that. And not just by way of having her lie to the task force about the rules, but as far as that's concerned, well, we'll have to hold off into the next video for that one. Anyway, Aizawa, wise to what Ryuzaki is trying to do by asking these questions, and honestly, probably still pretty irritated with him regarding the events of episode 18, is the first to come at him about letting Misa and Light go.
Ryuzaki, Miss Amane and Light have both been cleared of suspicion. They shouldn't be under surveillance any longer.
And this shit is so frustrating. Like, even though Ryuzaki is skeptical about all of this, he really doesn't have a leg to stand on. The fact that these rules exist within the notebook make it difficult to refute them, especially considering the fact that at least 2 of the rules have already been verified by way of witnessing Higuchi use the notebook to kill that traffic cop tonight. Then when you add in the fact that the Shinigami is saying that all of the death notes have the same rules, I mean, what the hell is there even to consider? There's absolutely no reason to believe that they would be fake, and so, I mean, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit, or something like that.
I understand. Please accept my apologies for all the trouble.
Ugh, this makes my fucking skin crawl, y'all. The way Ryuzaki has to debase himself by apologizing, even though deep down he knows he's right. It's just leaves a foul taste in my mouth.
Would it be alright if I kept investigating with you?
Yes.
I really do hate it, y'all. Like, he just seems so defeated. And honestly, he would have ultimately been better off saying no here. I understand that it would look petty of him to kick Light out after all of this, but well, we'll talk about it more next time.
And just like that, Misa and I are proven innocent. He just lost his edge thanks to the fake rules I created.
Oh, shut up, Light. I can't stand your ass sometimes. Like, you're honestly just lucky that Ryuk is so bored that he decided to help you out. Because if it weren't for that, you wouldn't be cleared of suspicion. You owe all of this to Ryuk right now.
As punishment for defying the god of the new world, you will die.
I find it so interesting when he gets like this, because when Light knows that he has the upper hand, you really get a sense of just how childish this dude really is. Like, I'm not going to discount the fact that he's intelligent, that he's cunning, that he's just a brilliant kid, but that's the thing. He's a kid, or rather, he acts like one, because this sort of rhetoric is just dripping with immaturity and hubris, and it's like he's an edgelord. Yeah, you know what? That's exactly what it is. He's a fucking edgelord. And sure, he's got the power to back it up, but just, I mean, look at the way he views himself. Like he's some sort of golden god. And I get it, he's just outsmarted the world's greatest detective, but it just feels so childish. Which, I guess, you know what? That actually tracks. Ryuzaki has been saying that since episode 6, and this is just another example of that at play. But anyway, some time passes, probably no more than a day, and we see Misa taking her leave. And while I think it's kind of silly to let her go, given y'all have proof that she's at least somewhat connected to Kida, I also can kind of understand not having a reason to detain her. But anyway, something I wanted to point out is that pretty much the whole task force is here, minus Ryuzaki, and I guess Watsuri too, but he's rarely with the group anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because it kind of speaks to a pattern of behavior that we'll start to see from him.
We're saying goodbye to Misa.
Knock it off, Matsuda.
Man, I swear Matsuda is just so silly. Anyway, Light, being sure to avoid the cameras, instructs Misa to head to the woods to retrieve the notebook. And she does. And, well,
I remember.
The second Kida has returned. And she's brought a friend.
I'm back, baby!
I know I was giving him a hard time earlier in the episode, but it's so good to have him back. Dude's been MIA for 8 episodes now. That's a third of the entire series thus far. So yeah, this is a big deal. But anyway, I actually got a little ahead of myself. So 2 things I want to point out. 1, this is the 4th purpose behind switching the notebooks, to ensure that Misa would get her memories back the same way Light did. And secondly, before Ryuk actually shows up, Misa finds a letter hidden in her death note. In it, Light basically asks her to recall the name of his friend from school, you know, Ryuzaki, and then write his name in the notebook. Which sounds kind of weird. Like, I get that correlation doesn't always equal causation, but that would be mad suspicious if y'all just let her out and then Ryuzaki immediately dies. But as it turns out, Misa doesn't remember his name anyway. But we'll talk more about that later on. Anyway, in addition to that, he also asked her to remove a scrap from the notebook and bring it to Task Force headquarters. Not for him to use or anything, but for her to touch him with so that he can see Ryuk again too. I guess that he also misses Ryuk. But yeah, he also ends the letter with,
"If you do this for me, I promise I will love you for the rest of my life."
Yay!
Same old manipulative Light. Honestly, I really do miss the bashful young man from the last 8 episodes, because I honestly cannot stand this version of Light right now. I feel like I dislike him even more now because I know what he could have been, but whatever. Anyway, this is when Ryuk actually shows up.
I finally returned to the human world.
And Misa is happy to see him, and he's a little shy about it.
How are you doing?
Sorry, I get a little shy sometimes.
So it is just everyone. Everyone is just attracted to her. Well, everyone except for the one person she wishes was. That's crazy.
Here. Light told me to bring one for you.
These people just keep enabling this man. But at least Light did bring him the apple that he asked for.
Try this, an apple from the Shinigami world.
What? Where did you pull that out of? You got a backpack or like a flap of skin or something back there? Also, that does not look like an apple. It looks like a bell pepper. Like a bell pepper that's way past its expiration date. Like that shit does not look right.
Come on, one bite won't kill you.
Are you sure about that?
No, but in all seriousness, this is nice. It's nice seeing two of our comic relief characters having a cute little back and forth. A moment of levity, you know? Even Misa's A theme can be heard in the background, letting us know that everything is just all good.
Before I forget, I want you to make the ideal with me.
Well, until it's not. And I really like the way the music just shuts off as she says it and bites into the apple.
I want you to make the ideal with me.
It's a nice way to make the tonal whiplash a little more palatable. But, yeah, she wants to do the ideal. Again.
You already made the same deal with Rem once before. Are you sure you really want me to cut your lifespan in half for the second time?
And yeah, I guess now's a good time to point out that this is the 5th and final purpose of swapping the notebooks the way Light did all those months ago, to ensure that Ryuk would be the Shinigami to meet with Misa. Because as funny and laid back as Ryuk is, at the end of the day, he does not give a fuck about any of these humans. Sure, he'll do his job of explaining to Misa the consequences of making this deal, as is, I imagine, required in some sense, but he's not going to talk her out of it. Rem, however, well, if Shinigami can choose whether or not they give a person their eyes, I'd be inclined to believe that Rem would not give them to Misa again, and there'll be some evidence to support that a little later. But yeah, this final purpose is perfect for Light because now, with Misa by his side, he will once again have access to the Shinigami eyes. Which, as I said in the last video in regard to Higuchi, it'll only serve to make him all the more deadly. And in Light's case, he doesn't even have to sacrifice anything to get it. Anyway, something else I wanted to point out is the slow, ominous buildup of the song Semblance of Dualism, which, fun fact, I was writing this script at 2 a.m. alone in the dark, trying to scour through all of these creepy ass instrumentals to find the name of this specific song. And man, I swear I have never been more creeped out while working on these videos. These songs are a lot creepier when you're really focusing in on them. Anyway, we transition to the next day where Misa is coming to visit Light. And before Light goes down to see her, I wanted to point something out, and it coincides with what I had mentioned about Ryuzaki earlier when they were saying their farewells to Misa. Right now, he's off on his own, sidelined, kind of. I just found it so interesting because any other time we've seen him in this room, he's always been at the desk. But now he's resigned himself off to the corner, and I feel like it's, well, we'll talk about it more next time, but it's just something I wanted to make sure I pointed out.
Hurry up and go see her. Don't you know, you should never keep a woman waiting.
Okay, Pops. But you know what? I wonder how Light's father feels about the two of them being together. Like, she's this super famous idol who's appearing in movies and brand deals and has her own line of cosmetics. Like, that's gotta be wild to know your son pulled someone like her.
Ryuk, why is he attached to Misa?
So it's clear that Rem didn't foresee this coming, which I was gonna give her shit for, but then I realized, from her perspective, why would she think he'd do this? I'm guessing she must have thought that Misa's notebook was just waiting for him in the woods, and that in order to continue being Kira, he would eventually make his way back to it and start using that one from now on. Which makes sense. I mean, as far as Rem knows, Misa didn't even know where the Death Note was buried.
Misa's lifespan, it's been halved again. No, did she make the ideal with Ryuk?
And this is what I meant earlier. Based on Rem's reaction, she would have never allowed for some shit like that to go down if she was the one who got to Misa first. And the worst part for her is that she can't even do anything about it. Hell, she can't even really let herself react because that could cause problems for Misa in the future. But about this footage, I find the consistency with Light's lifespan to be pretty interesting. Despite everything he's been through, all the twists and turns his life has taken since getting the notebook, his lifespan has remained consistent consistent since we first saw it back in episode 3. Also, in regard to Misa's lifespan, it does, in fact, seem lower, but the number isn't exactly halved. But then this is a Shinigami numeric system, so, I'll defer to Rem's assessment of it. Anyway, Misa does as instructed and touches Light with a piece of paper from the notebook, and just like that,
it's been a while, Ryuk.
Our boys are reunited once again. It's actually kind of hard to believe that they've been apart for a third of the series thus far.
Light, I'm so sorry. I don't remember Hideki Ryuga's real name. I tried, but I totally forgot.
She's being real careless. Like when they were together here last time, Light was mindful of the location of the security cameras, which, based on where the two were standing in that scene, was directly behind him. Now, he and Misa appear to be standing in the same area, which means she's facing the camera that he was actively trying to avoid previously. And then she goes and says that to him. Like, it's not super damning in and of itself, but I feel like you should still probably be telling her to shut the hell up. Like, she's in plain view of the camera. Ryuzaki can see them. I doubt it'd be that hard for him to look at the footage and read her lips. And if he did, he'd know exactly what she was referencing. Okay.
But I did the eye deal with Ryuk, so I can try again.
So everything's going according to plan.
Now, that's interesting, because it implies that Light assumed that she would forget. And, that does actually make sense, especially given what Misa said earlier about seeing so many names every day.
I was seeing dozens, no, hundreds of names and lifespans every day.
Couple that with the fact that it's been over 3 months, and the fact that she's gone through so much in those 3 months, it would make sense that she would have forgotten at this point. But it's wild to think that Light apparently banked on that.
If you do that, then your lifespan will...
Oh, brother!
Here we go again with this bullshit.
All I want is to enjoy a long life with you in an ideal world.
Whatever, bro. Anyway, the episode ends with what I have to admit is a pretty cool shot of the blinding sunlight bathing the room in white light, while Light and Misa are shrouded in the shadow being cast by a demonic-looking Ryuk. It's actually really fucking cool. The scene then jumps to a despondent-looking Ryuzaki who actually hasn't said a single word since apologizing earlier in the episode. I suppose, in a way, this is foreshadowing the title of the next episode. Anyway, the final shot of the episode is of a sadistic-looking Light looking all too satisfied with himself. And roll credits. Anyway, that's the end of this video, but before we wrap this one up, I wanted to go ahead and take a second to thank all the folks over on the Patreon. First up, I want to say thank you to our 7 admirable assessors. I also want to say thanks to all 52 of our invaluable investigators. In addition to them, I wanted to give a special thanks to our 4 remarkable researchers: Arrow Falcon Green, Game and Alchemist, The Best, and Trinity Schiffer. And lastly, praise be to our 5 official overanalyzers: Asia, C-Mart, Croy Raiden, I Am the Blonde Asshole, and Joey Helbig, who actually did the intro for this episode. All of y'all are super awesome, and as always, I thank you all so much for signing up. But yeah, if you liked this video, then consider dropping a like. If you really liked it, then consider subscribing. And if you just loved it and want to see more sooner, then consider joining the Patreon. Anyway, that's it for this time. See y'all in about a week, friends. Peace.